Now we're going to explain and discuss the chapter 5, which is called creative techniques. We will explain the different types of creative techniques. What's the meaning of creative techniques? Creative techniques are devised methods, or it's methods, and are different types of methods and techniques that used to stimulate idea production in problem solving. Try to stimulate the idea production. It is a tool in the creative department manager to stimulate the production of problem solving, production of the creative person mind for produce different types of solving. These techniques are not supposed to be substitutes or replaced for each other. No, it is accumulated, is integrated together for each other, since one or can use more than one technique to solve, since the person can use more than one technique to solve the same problem. On the other hand, the different problems may require different types of techniques or different strategies of techniques, and the same problem may profit from one strategy today and from another strategy tomorrow. What is the types of the creative techniques? Now we're going to talk about and explain the famous types. And there are many types. Every day they discover another type. But today we will talk about the most famous types of creative techniques. Attribute listing. Listing build upon changing in the recent feature, in the recent object. So the attribute listing technique is one of the simplest and effective means of innovation. The technique is based on changing the object's attributes. Attributes means traits or features or characteristic of any object. To change the recent attributes. Each time we take a step, we do it by changing an attribute to some other things. By changing an attribute to some other things. The techniques consist of the following two simple steps. The mechanism of this technique, the attribute listing techniques, the creative attribute listing techniques, is based on two steps. The problem solver, the first step, the problem solver isolates all characteristics or attributes of the object or the idea. I have to isolate them, the old or recent attributes. To start, suggest a new attributes. He considers each one of each attributes in turn and uses them as a checklist to look at all the aspects of the object or idea. This is the first technique. Isolate the recent attributes and suggest a new attributes. The second technique, or the second type of creative techniques, forced relationship. I try to get a relationship between two things. There is no relation between them at all in the recent time, like the camera and the the mobile. There is no relation, but by collecting them in one object, so it become camera, mobile camera. So I create a new product called a mobile camera, mobile with camera. Two things. It is a technique for idea generation, of course, to generate a new idea, which rely upon the creation of a forced relationship between two or more normally unrelated object or idea. Normally unrelated. These two objects normally unrelated, but by force I get a relation between them to create another product. Forcing relationship is one of the most powerful ways to develop to develop ways to develop. Oh, this is cool. To develop new insight and new solution. It is a technique how to create a relationship by force between unrelated objects. This is the best definition. It is the techniques that to create a relationship by force between unrelated objects, like desk and the chair, which you sitting now on it, sofa and bed, mobile and camera. The third technique is about synectics. Synectics based on or consist of mechanism. The synectics process. It is the process of making the strange familiar and the familiar strange. What is familiar? What is the strange? Which I'm going to get it as a familiar thing, and which are familiar, I'm going to change it to strange thing. The synectics process involves two steps: making the strange familiar, the strange solution. I will make it a familiar solution. The strange here refers to the problem calls for solution. The strange here, it is the problem, the new problem, which I have to turn it to familiar by understanding this problem and collecting information and try to understand each part of this problem. And the second step is making the familiar, the old solution. The familiar here is the old solution. Strange. I have to isolate the old solution. The familiar refers to the old solution. Morphological analysis. This is the fourth types of creative techniques to generate more idea. The types of techniques aims at the completeness of the solution of giving a given problem. The knowledge of all of the essential features of the solution achieved, and it is leads to the conviction that all solutions of any problem are useful in the light of various purpose and various performance criteria. The morphological techniques means the determining of all possible combinations that could help solving the problem. This type of techniques, creative techniques, consist of the following steps. The first step is to formulating the problem. Clearly formulating the problem. You have to understand your problem very well, identify the problem. Second, define all the independent variables. I have to define the variable, independent and dependent variables to understand them. Determining the subdivision of each variable, not only the independent variable, but the subdivision of each independent variable, which might enter the solution. Constructing a morphological box, so I have to draw the morphological box, determining the usefulness of each solution. The fifth the fifth famous type, creative techniques is brainstorming. Is a worldwide technique. Brainstorming. Brainstorming is an organized idea generation. It's an organized one. The brainstorming means using the brain to storm a problem, to practice a conference technique. It's a conference technique. It is not a single technique. It is a conference technique by which a group attempt to find solution for specific problem by contributed its member. The purpose and the spirit of brainstorm. The purpose of brainstorming, the purpose is to produce a checklist of idea which can serve as leads to problem solution. يبقى the purpose is to produce a checklist of ideas. Ideas what? A checklist of ideas, a new solution, a new product. Ideas which can subsequently be evaluated and feature process. The spirit of brainstorming, the importance of the spirit of the brainstorming, since self-encouragement is needed as much as mutual encouragement. We need both the self-encouragement, the individual encouragement, and the mutual encouragement. The types of evaluations of the new idea. There are two types of evaluation that participants should guard against. The first type is evaluation of the practicality, and the second type is evaluation of novelty of the idea, practicality and novelty. So now we're going through the most important topic in the basic in the creative techniques, which we called it the basic rules of brainstorm. Without these rules, the four rules, we can't go through this technique. We can't use these techniques. The first rule is criticism is ruled out. It is not allowed to criticism on of anybody opinion. Okay, so if you go to criticize anybody, prevent his creative thinking. You will prevent his creative thinking. Free winning is welcomed because more and more solution is welcome. The wider the idea, the better is easier. It is easier to tame an idea. Isn't willing is welcomed. Quantity is wanted. More ideas is wanted. Combination and improvement are thought. Participants should try to improve idea of others by adding something or get something away. And now we finish the 5 6 chapter 5. Now we finish the chapter 5 about the creative techniques.